All right, it is time for Red Rain episode 154. Here is your host, Walter Mitchell.
Thank you, Kyle Little Rock Ledbetter. Here we are on the eve of the last preseason game for the Cardinals, and there's 53 huge decisions to make, and we're going to hammer those out today and try to make a case for the 53 that make the most sense to me. And I'll preface it by saying that it often comes down to weighing between a veteran that you believe probably won't be on the team next year, more than likely, or waiving a veteran or waiving a young player who you have under control or you drafted and have still 4 or 3 or even 2 years left, on the deal. Those are tough decisions because what certain players can do to help you now and what certain players are going to be able to do down the road. Now, one of the things that was fascinated me this week was to hear Owen Pappoe, who has been playing fantastic football this preseason, say that last year, getting assimilated into a new system and everything, it put a lot of thinking in and took a lot of instinct out, or being able to play fast. And that's why it took him some time to crack into the lineup. And once he got in there, he was playing really well. But that's the kind of, I think, concession you have to make with the rookie draft picks. Some of them aren't playing all that well right now. And if it was an even playing field, they probably wouldn't make the team. But they're rookies and, they're finding their way. And if you spent a good quality draft pick on them, I think it behooves the Cardinals to keep them. That's going to be one of my calling cards for how I'm doing this. The other thing is with veterans, as many of you know, come week one, if they're on the roster, they're they play in the game, or they're on the roster for the game, even if they're inactive, their entire salary is guaranteed. So that's often a consideration for GMs and coaches and stuff. Would it be better off to, wait a week to, waive a veteran and then wait a week and re-sign him, or re-sign him right away to the practice squad? The other cool thing this year is the practice squad is now 17 players. If the 17th is a international player. And guess what? It's going to be Bernhard Sekovitz, and he's playing pretty good ball in the preseason, and I'm glad he's still with the team, and I think he brings some value to that spot. So he's going to be 17. We'll talk a little bit about who might be some of the 16s. But here's the gist. I think the most brilliant cuts of trimming down from 90 to 53 are when none of your guys get claimed off waivers. So that's what this game becomes. This task is, who are we going to identify as players who would be claimed? For example, Elijah Jones. He is thought of extremely highly in New England here. He had 5 outstanding interceptions for Boston College last year during a 5-game winning streak, when those interceptions turned close games into eventual winners for BC. He's not having a great camp, preseason games. He's doing well in camp, but and he's got one of the lowest PFF grades on the defense. But anyone who looks at Elijah Jones and his physical abilities, he's long, he's speedy, and he's a playmaker. That's not a kid you can afford as a 3rd-round pick. Can you afford to put him on waivers and just watch the Patriots snatch him up and claim him? And they've got the number 3 pecking order. The Cardinals have the 4 this year, because of the draft positions. All right. So, I mean, right now, I'm going to tell you right now, Elijah Jones is going to make this football team. And he may not be a major contributor early on, like Owen Popo wasn't, but somewhere down the line this season, I think he'll be tapped on the shoulder and sent in there, and by then I think he'll be up to it and able and going to make a real name for himself. So, with that, here's my rationale for each pick, and Kyle has some thoughts too. He's going to jump in whenever he's going to make a question about a player that maybe I ought to consider more, and that he would consider more. So that's his role today, and with his New York Mets hat, which is really stunning. Miracle Mets. Maybe this will be a miracle season for the Cardinals.
Maybe the backstory
Worst
behind
is
all
worst.
the hats is that when I was a wee child, I thought it would be cool to get as many different team hats as possible. And
I'm with
now
you.
as an adult, I just have the whole repertoire of hats still at my disposal. So the
Oh,
one
I
at
think
the
it's
bottom was the
awesome.
New York Mets.
Awesome, man. I was a freshman in high school when the Miracle Mets rocked the planet. It was awesome. Tom Seaver was one of my idols.
Funny enough, I
Um,
was a freshman in high school when the 2015 New York Mets went on their run to the World Series. Ultimately,
aha,
they lost to the
yeah,
Royals, but I was a freshman in high school too.
nice. And one of my best friends growing up, Timmy Tuffle, in my hometown, I played ball with my whole childhood. He was the starting second baseman for the Mets when they beat the Red Sox in the Buckner World Series. So that was thrilling to have a friend out there to watch. So, well, good luck to the New York Mets. They are in the playoff hunt, believe it or not. And we'll have to see what happens to them. So, quarterback, Kyler Murray and Clayton too. Now, someone's really pushing hard on internet for us to sign Ryan Tannehill. And oh my God, first of all, Tannehill's going to command some money. I mean, he's not going to come for cheap. Second of all, and you're not going to be able to sign him to a practice squad. He's going to go to a team that needs an immediate starter, and he's going to wait to pick his spots, ideally, unless somebody throws a nice, makes an offer he cannot refuse. But are the Cardinals going to keep three quarterbacks on this roster? They cannot afford to. They can't. They simply cannot. I mean, if you do this 53-man exercise and you do what I'm saying is try to keep all the rookies you can, keep all the second-year players you can, because you have them under control and you're developing them like Clayton Tune. If they did this, if they signed Tannehill and cut Clayton Tune, who then gets claimed by Houston or signs with Houston, I am going to be out of my living mind. Because get this. First of all, Clayton Tune, if you look this up right now, after two preseason games, is with quarterbacks who've passed 25 times or more, is number 4 in the NFL in RTG, quarterback rating. He's doing a hell of a job. In both games he's played, he's led the team to a winning score in his half. All right, it hasn't always been pretty, but look at the lines he's been playing behind either. I mean, Sivs, and unfortunately Desmond Ritter couldn't handle that as well, but Clayton Tune has hung in there. He's acquitted himself really well. No one can look anyone in the eye and say he's not developing within the system. You can't do that. He had a pretty decent preseason last year as a rookie. He got thrown to the wolves in Cleveland. If anyone wants to judge a player's career or NFL potential on that scenario, That's an egregious injustice, in my opinion. So, but look at what Toon had against him coming into training camp. He had 3 strikes. Okay. One is the team goes out and makes a trade for Desmond Ritter. What does that say to you? Oh, wow. Okay. And everybody in the world said, okay, Ritter's in to be QB2. Everybody did. I was one of the only ones who said, whoa, 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 time out. Wait a minute. This kid's Clayton Tune has game. And let's develop this kid. So, and then that's strike one. Strike two is that Bears game. I mean, that Browns game that everybody has written him off after that and said he's terrible. And then number three is, he had a whole entire fan base who's ready to move on from him. Pretty much entire. I mean, when I was arguing for him, people were laughing at me. But I went and watched his games. It's amazing what you learn. That's why I'm such a Cliff fan. I went and watched virtually all of his games and his play calls and got to know his systems. And I can tell you this right now. What we saw in Arizona was not pure Cliff Kingsbury play call. He was dictated to by Keim and by Sean Kugler. He was to play an amalgam of plays that Steve Hyden drew up. So we'll see more. You'll learn more about Cliff this year in Washington. I can tell you that. So, but everybody wants to just write somebody off or blame him. And that's when it's without merit, it gets me, as you know, a little ticked off. Well, so he had these 3 strikes that go against him. And what does he go and do? He goes and plays his butt off. And I mean, it's not even close of a competition. And this is against a guy who's 8-9 career starter. And you can argue, wow, how did that happen? Well, he had some good games. He issued a fourth quarter comeback 2 years ago against us and beat us at the buzzer. And he played really, I thought, solid football in that game. So, I mean, this is not. I mean, he's a guy who led Cincinnati to a playoff berth and an undefeated season. There's things about him that are really attractive. But here's my thing. Not only did Toon, rise to the occasion here. Think of this. I mean, I've been a fan since 1963. I'm thinking back. Have I ever seen a Cardinals team whose QB1 and QB2 are both homegrown draft picks that the Cardinals are actually developing? I mean, isn't this great? I mean, these are guys you drafted. People say, well, Toon's still not ready to take him. Whoa. Again, timeout, okay? He's showing a command of this offense. And let me tell you this, in an offense that's run heavy and play action heavy, his ability to throw over the middle on time and accurately gives him a shot against any team this year if they sell the run properly on play action and give him just a second. You saw, look at the way he kept hitting Dan Chisena off the slot and keeps it 4th and 4. Bingo, on the money. Chisena goes for 9 yards. I mean, this kid can throw it over the middle. And that gives you confidence that, he could do that in games and help you win. So what about Ritter? Would someone claim him? With his contract, he's still on a third year of what was Ritter taken in the 3rd round?
It was either 3rd or 4th round. Yeah.
3rd or 4th. Yeah. So his contract isn't that, unwieldy, and he's got 2 years. I think someone, but to claim him means you got to put him on your 53-man roster. So I'm inclined to think that, could the Cardinals trade him? Maybe. He's got to have a good game this week, no doubt about it. And he's got to remind people of why he was so good at Cincinnati. So, but we'll have to see after this week. But if they waive him and he goes unclaimed, I'd keep him. And start getting him more assimilated into the system, and he'd be a great scout team quarterback, particularly because he's got serious wheels. The dude can run, right? So, and you want a guy like that who's multi-talented to play the guys in the league that you have to play, particularly the runner, the dual threat quarterbacks. He could do that
But
for
to
you.
your point, Walter, would you be okay if someone claimed Ritter? Because if the goal is to pass him through waivers to get to the practice squad, wouldn't there be
Right.
other players on the chopping block that would have a better chance of getting through the waiver claim process?
That's going to be interesting to see as we go. Keep tabs on it. And at the end, give me a name who you think could pass through waivers. Okay,
Better
pal?
than Ritter. Okay,
Give
I
me,
will
yeah,
do that because
because
on my original list, I kept three
yeah,
quarterbacks for that
yeah.
reason.
I mean, if this weren't so tight and the Cardinals didn't overdraft at certain positions, which has put them in a real pickle, like a running back now and a cornerback, we got issues. We got huge decisions to make. Um, if they cut Terrell Clark, I am going to be so pissed beyond the realm. After what he's been through and what he's done, and he punched out a ball this week. Again, here's a guy who's playing hard and he's developing. If you pull the plug on that, I'll tell you that this Terrell Clark would get claimed. I mean, ask Brett Coleman about Terrell Clark. He did a whole feature on him back before Clark's draft, and when you saw Brett here, he reiterated how high he is on Terrell Clark. And let me tell you this: if Brett Coleman's high on Terrell Clark, people should be high on Terrell Clark. All right, but the Cardinals have put themselves in a pickle now at that position where we have to address it. But it's a great question because ideally, I'd love to keep all three, but I came down to last roster decisions, and most teams now, Kyle, are because of the extended practice squads, and your quarterback three is active no matter what on game day. Most of them are keeping two, and then you scramble around. If you're QB3, you waive him and he's still there, you sign on the practice squad, which could be the case with that. Here's what I would predict if Ritter were to get claimed, or if they traded him. Jeff Driscoll was with us last year. He's QB 3 or 4 in Washington with Cliff. I think given the opportunity to come back here, Driscoll would relish it. Last year, he was kind of, you know, um, swiped off the practice squad late in the season by the Browns, I think it was. Somebody, no, not Browns. Somebody, and he played some games, and pretty well. So, I mean, Driscoll, they like. He's ideal as a scout team quarterback because, again, he's got the athleticism and the arm, and So, I have a feeling it would be something along those lines. As a wild card here, the guy I would really like if they could claim him, who they didn't claim last year, was Bailey Zappi of the Patriots. I've liked that kid
He's going to
since
get
I'd love to,
waived. He's definitely going to get waived.
or traded. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone's going to trade for him. So, I mean, if he passed through waivers last year, he's probably heading that way again this year.
Especially because they
But then
added
again,
two
you got to
quarterbacks.
if you can't pick him up off waivers because then you have to have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So if he slides through waivers, then I would make a pitch to try to bring him in. But there are going to be a number of quarterbacks available who can fill that QB3 role. And let's be realistic for any team. If you get down to QB3, you know, I mean, what you would prefer is a guy who knows the system And Jeff Driscoll knows our system. He's played in it for a year, so he would make a lot of sense. Um, so would Josh Dobbs, but he's in San Francisco, and he's a lot of people think he's going to get some run there this year. That's for their situation and not ours. All right. So there's two quarterbacks. I had him keeping four uh, running backs. James Conner, of course. Trey Benson, who came on strong. A boy, can that kid scoot and break tackles in the open field? Just as Florida State tape suggested. Amari DiMercado, who's pass pro, is pro. And you're going to protect Kyler in clear passing situations. This is the guy you want on the field. And then I kept Michael Carter because the connection with Benson, and he gives you that a little extra. And maybe in the beginning he won't be active on game days unless he can factor him into those kickoffs. But you keep him on hold because when Connor, if he has to be out a couple of games, that's a time like last year where Carter, you can really take advantage of his skills. But it's good to have him in the fold there, and he's one heck of a teammate. I'll tell you, he's endeared himself. I hated to say goodbye to DJ Dallas, but I think he's going to pass. No one's going to pick up that contract. So while the Cardinals have to eat some of it, I think he's going to pass through waivers and then sign him to the practice squad and have him ready when we need him. We can activate him any week we want. So I thought he was not in danger of being claimed. I might be wrong about that, but if someone's willing to take the contract, then yeah, I guess he would. I think the contract was surprised some people. The numbers were as high as they were, so that's why I'm saying it.
You and I are in lockstep. Same four, same reasons.
Yeah, baby. All right, so tight ends, I have four going. Such a premier position. You're going to see a lot of 12 and 13, and you need four guys. And man, I've never been so excited about the depth of and the starter of a tight end room than this one with Trey McBride, Elijah Higgy Bear Higgins, who's developed as quite a prolific receiver on play action. Tip Ryman, who's once he gets kind of his legs under him, look out, because this guy can flat out block. I mean, I would also train him in case you need a tackle. I'd train him to play the edge tackle because it would help him in so many ways. And he's a fullback type. He's an H-back, can do so many things. And Travis Vokalek, big kid, strong, fits the bill. In McBride and Higgins, you get, all-star receivers. In Ryman and Vokalek, you get big boy, smash mouths. So I love the balance there of this, and it all makes sense. How'd that match with yours, Kyle?
I went exactly the same as you, same four. And you've been the one who's pushed me onto Volkolek over the preseason because I kind of looked at it and I was like, well, they already have a top end tight end in Trey McBride who's going to be on the field 75% of the offensive snaps. How much run will Volkolek actually get? But given the 12 personnel they want to run and the fact that I think even though we put Tip Ryman down as a tight end, I think his main position is going to be used in that fullback spot when he sees the field.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
adding Volkolek made sense. And like you said, they have Bernard Sakovitz, who's going to be on the practice squad if ever needed to be called on in a pinch too. So they've got 5 legitimate tight ends, and I went the same way. I kept Volkolek too.
Outstanding. So with wide receiver, I'm keeping 6 because Weaver becomes the kickoff returner, and the kid's got special wheels. He reminds me of one of my favorite players in the draft, Roman Wilson from the Wolverines, who I was really privately hoping the Cardinals would get to complement MHJ. because Wilson is just, you'll see. Kid is like, he's slippery as all get out. You look at him coming off the bus and you don't think this kid, but man, and his movements are effortless. And he can run routes like crazy. Weaver's just learning his, to perfect his routes. But boy, oh boy, he's got the feet, he's got the glide. I think it was an auspicious thing that, DJ Dallas ran back like a 35-yard kickoff, which was the best of the season. And then, like, two kicks later, Weaver went for 37. I think it was just kind of like, you know what? And it's interesting to me, a lot of teams, how they're taking this is some are going with, chunky running back types who are going to break tackles on this new founded kickoff. And others are going with guys with 4.3 speed. And in other words, you slip one guy and boom, you can be gone. Like Weaver was. I mean, he took off like a shot out of a cannon. And he got tracked down, but by the pursuit. But 37 yards later, it was looking really good. I think that's a good role for him, and I think that he'd be active on game days. Of course, Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch. Well, I'm just so excited to watch this year now that he's going to get his fair share of targets. Michael Willie Wilson, love him. I kept Zay Jones over Chris Moore. I mean, I don't know how, they signed Chris Moore and I got really excited about him. But then I don't see how it makes sense to keep, sign Chris Moore and then sign Zay Jones and have both of them stay on your practice squad. It could happen if they decide they want more over Dan Chisena. But Dan Chisena is a baller of a special teamer. I mean, the Ravens claimed him and for the playoffs off of our, when they could after the season was over. And look at how he's played. What was mysterious to me is that why they didn't play him with Tune and why they, like three of the best players that Tune was melding with, they did not play coming out to start the game. They were Dan Chisena, his go-to guy. Why isn't he there? He played special teams. I mean, what's up with that? Was that kind of a nod, we're keeping you? I hope so, because I love this kid. But then two of the linemen, Marquise Hayes. He's been our best offensive lineman this preseason. And he's on third team. And you look on the depth chart and he's on third team. And then you look at how he was blocking on the one-on-one drills against the Colts. And he was like, walling guys. I mean, this kid, they're maybe trying to play coy with him so they can sneak it through waivers. This kid is playing his best football, and we thought he'd be pretty good once he got healthy. He looks in the best shape he's been. And, so they didn't play him, and that porous offensive line that came out against the Saints was disturbing. And then Jackson Barton, the tackle, has been fine, steady. He's been in the system. His PFF grades. Kyle, can you pull up the Cardinals PFF grades on offense? Because read us who the top offensive linemen are. Give us the top 10 grades in the preseason. This would be fascinating to do for fans to hear this, because you might think I'm crazy. Jackson Barton, who? He's been around. He was on our practice squad all last year. He had a good camp last year. He had good games in preseason last year. He's a solid kid, and I think that he probably gets through waivers. I think you can waive him because they have kind of kept him on a low profile. which is good because I think we need help at tackle. What do you got there? You got it up?
I am looking for the preseason grades. I have your article about the PFF grades from the
Yeah.
first
You know
preseason
what?
game.
I got him right here. So watch this. Top graded player for the Cardinals this preseason on offense, Dan Chisena, 90.0. That's elite. Number two is Marquise Hayes, guard, 77.8. Number three is Jackson Barton, tackle. It's had 69 snaps. Hayes has 76, 76.9. Trey Benson, number four, 71.8. Keith Ishmael is playing fantastic. Second string, third string center, 71.0. He's a keeper on the practice squad for sure, if they can keep him in that capacity. Andre Bocellia, give him credit. Kid's getting open and not, he's Velcro, 70.3. Clayton Tune, 68.7. Which, like I said, he's had, um, he's thrown over 25 passes and he's number 4 in the NFL in RTG, quarterback rating. Pretty cool. Zach Pascal, 68.6. Got to give him credit. He's come out making plays on offense this year and done a good job with that. And he's still one of the better special teams players. But I don't think he brings as much to the table in both special teams and in catching the football as Dan Chisena. So I kept Chisena um, over Pascal. And I don't know if Pascal gets claimed. I don't think he will. So I think you can keep him around on the practice squad. A 9 is DJ Dallas, 67.1. He's run hard and well. He just hasn't run better than Carter. And he's not the pass pro guy that DeMercado is. And he's never averaged 4.9 a carry the way DeMercado did last year. And then it's DeMercado at 66.5. So pretty cool that the grades are heading that way. But by the way, despite a poor start last week, who really settled down really well was Isaiah Adams, the guard. So much so, I mean, his run blocking is second on the team. The first is Hayes with 80.9. Isaiah Adams is 76.6. And you might have seen the Baldy breakdown of Adams with Christian Jones and Tip Ryan. Oh man, opening that hole for Trey Benson. That was just awesome. I hope if you didn't go to Revenge of the Birds, I highlighted on one of the articles this week. And Raymond, 62.8 is right there. Chris Moore, right there, 63.5. But Moore hasn't done anything special. And they're not playing Zay Jones, so he's got a lock. I don't know. I just took Jones over Moore, and I took Chisena over Pascal. And I think that, Tajon Palmer is a project that they're going to develop. And I think they drafted him as a project. That was pretty much the thinking from the get-go. Although I was hoping that he could assimilate earlier. Bocellia, they'll keep around as they always have. They like him. Kyler likes him. But Bocellia can't touch Dortch yet, and I don't think he definitely doesn't have the special teams star factor that Chisena has. So that's how I made that one. What did you have, Kyle?
I went with 5 receivers, and it was
Yep.
the same. It was the same 5 as you, minus Chisena. It was MHJ, Wilson, Dortch, Zay Jones, and Weaver. And like you said, Weaver and Dortch will be the two kickoff specialists, essentially. It sounds like the only difference between us is I thought there'd be a better chance Chisena goes through waivers than Desmond Ritter.
Yep.
But I could see a compelling case for either direction. I'm not dead set in that's certainly the best way the Cardinals should go, especially you brought up the Jeff Driscoll point. But also I think Chisena and Palmer are both longer term projects if they're ever going to become something like an impact for the Cardinals. And I think Chisena might be great on special teams, but I also think that their better hope is to pass a quarterback through and maybe not activate Chisena anyways on game days, because you get the emergency third quarterback no matter what. So I think it's just the game of who's more likely to be claimed. And
Right.
I think the choice is between
Okay.
Ritter or Chisena.
All right. And Shanahan's been around the block for a while, a few years. Yeah, I'm not sure if he get claimed. I think it's possible. I think the Ravens might hop in on him again. Who knows? But good points. All right. On the O line, 9. Keeping 9. Paris Johnson Jr., Evan Brown, Bajalte Frotolt, Will Hernandez, Jonah Williams, Kelvin Beachum, Tristan Colon, Isaiah Adams, and Marquise Hayes. I'm going to take a flyer that Christian Jones is going to pass through waivers, particularly when you get 4 holding penalties, pretty much 3 in a row. It just indicates project. Here was my problem with that was they start him at left tackle and then Elijah Wilkerson over at right tackle or whatever. He's, you know, they're really pushing these young kids to come in and not only assimilate the speed of the NFL, but challenge them to play multiple positions. That is so overwhelming for a rookie. It was overwhelming for Paris Johnson. Let's just be real about that. Did he come in just nailing it at right tackle? No. And did he put in a season that he himself would be, proud of? Not until the end. I mean, it takes time. But I get that they want to see if he could be a swing tackle, but you already have a swing in Kelvin Beachum. So let him settle in at right tackle. He's played fine at right tackle in preseason. Where he struggled is at left tackle, where everything's in reverse. Someone said it well. It's like wiping your what with your other hand. It's not as easy. So it's the playing around with this, because it's also mindful to me that, I mean, JG is saying, "Oh, we're playing this to win these games," and no, you're not, because you're not putting the best guys out there in the second team in positions where they can. You didn't even put Chisena out with Clayton Tune after the connection, the chemistry that they showed in the first game. You don't take, don't put Marquise Brown and Jackson Barton in with the starters in Group 2 when they were playing better than anyone else. And you're trying out Christian Jones at left tackle. I mean, you're saying that's more of a priority. It just drives me nuts. So you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, we're trying to play to win, but then we're also just throwing spaghetti against the wall, see if guys can stick at certain positions where they didn't play in college. And that's annoying, but it's what it was. But I'm going to take a flyer that Christian Jones will pass through waivers. I'd be shocked if he's he was drafted in the later on in day 3 too. I just don't think he's at this point going to command interest in waivers. If anything, teams, if they need a tackle, are going to try to grab the veteran guys who come up. And I wouldn't leave this. Wouldn't be a surprise either if the Cardinals were active in trying to claim a tackle after the cuts on waivers. So, which at that point maybe they'd have to make a decision about Hayes. Cologne's too versatile. He could play all, I'm not sure if he can hold up at left tackle, but he can play left guard, center, guard, right tackle. Cologne is a valuable, and they're paying him like that. He's got $500,000 more than the minimum this season, which was smart of them to do. Isaiah Adams, like I said, he's having his troubles in pass pro, but it's pretty. He's been outstanding in run blocking, and this is why you drafted him, because you think he can be that guy. And so far, he is that guy running the football. Now they got to get him straightened out in pass pro, which in time they will be able to do, in my opinion. So, and Hayes deserves it. He's won it, and that's another theme of mine. Clayton Tune deserves this. Hayes deserves this. Michael Carter, the way he's played and come out and playing in second halves and stuff, running his tail up, he deserves this. So deserving is a good thing. It's doing something the old-fashioned way by earning it. So I think the rewards are good, and it's a message to the team, to every player, that, hey, wow, look at Marquise Hayes, buried, in the practice squad. And now look at this. Gives everybody the hope. Where were you different? You had 10, right?
I had 10. I originally passed Wilkinson over Hayes. I that was not necessarily because Wilkinson's the better player, more so because of who you can pass through the to the practice squad or potentially
Yep.
bring up for game days.
Right.
I have no apprehension with going Hayes over Wilkinson. I'm not really
Yeah.
tied to Wilkinson that much.
Yeah.
The 10th one I had was Christian Jones. Was
Yeah.
just keep him on the team, pass him through,
Right.
have him be the
Right.
backup left tackle, essentially.
Right.
Let him just work at that position, and let him work ideally in the same room with Paris Johnson. That way you can develop both
Yeah.
of them together in the way that they let down Josh Jones a year ago. So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
If I'm keeping 10, it's Jones too. So we're right on the money. Um, but Hayes has been so good, and unfortunately for Wilkinson, he's just been uh really, I don't even want to, say what I'm really feeling. I think he's got the second lowest PFF grade on the team. And unfortunately for him, because he was kind of making some strides at left guard last year, and they're not really playing him there this year. They're trying to make him a swing tackle, and unfortunately, it's just not working out for him. And he's played tackle before and struggled. So it seems like he's a guard, and I think that they may like him enough to keep him on practice squad. That's, I could see. So um, if he were in the guard mix, that would make more sense. The way that they're playing him at tackle, and he's having a really difficult time. And his technique's all over the place. I mean, it's just not. He doesn't look comfortable in his technique, so that's tough. All right, we were pretty close on that. Maybe just a couple players off. On defense, I have two nose tackles, Roy Lopez and Chris Tonga. Love both of these young players. I really love the passion and strength they bring to the middle. We're better at nose tackle this year than we've been in a while. And then the defensive tackles or interiors, I have four going here: Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, Darius Robinson, and Dante Stills. I'm really tempted to keep Ben Stilley. He's had a really good preseason, but my sense tells me he's not getting claimed. So, but he'll see the roster at some point this year, like he did last year. So I'm going to tell him that and say, Ben, we're waiving you now. If you don't get claimed, we're signing you back. And the first time we need you to go in a game, we're activating you. All right, that's how I would handle that. I left out LJ Collier because I don't think he's a nose tackle. It's kind of surprised me that they're playing him at nose tackle. who's more of a, I thought a defensive end. Um, and he's doing a decent job. He too, I think, will pass through waivers, and you can keep him on the practice squad. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Um, but I don't think he's a threat to get claimed, particularly playing nose tackle. I think this is a new spot for him, and I don't see a team saying, "Oh yeah, we'll claim Collier and play him at nose." I just don't see it. So, um, what do you have up front?
I had your exact same 6. I had the exact same group of
Yep.
Lopez, Tonga, Bilal Nichols, Jones, Darius Robinson, and Dante Stills. So,
Nice.
yeah, I
Right.
think kind of the same point. Collier was someone on the bubble. We'll get to edge rusher in a second, where I think it'll make more sense once we
Right.
talk about who the edge rushers are.
See, the reason why I moved on, tried took a risk with Ben Stilley, um, or is it Steele? It might be Steele. It might be French. En français, Steele. Ben Steele. It's Stille. Um, so, reason why I took a chance getting him through waivers, and I do believe he'll make it, is to keep Elijah Jones. To tell you the truth, and
Which
because
that's how the game
can't,
goes. You got to prioritize the
you
draft pick over
right,
the undrafted guy because you have a larger investment in them.
right, and that was going to mean keeping 6 cornerbacks and 5 safeties, which people say that's crazy, but it's not when you look at special teams and the players. I'll tell you when we get there. Edge, I have 5. Dennis Gardecki, who I think is going to have if he stays healthy, he's going to have a double-digit sack year. Zaven Collins, who knows what's going to happen this year? He should be better, but can he rush the passer? Xavier Thomas, I made the crack on Twitter when he made that chase down sack. That dude's so quick he can turn out the lights and be in bed before it's dark. I mean, he is quick. This kid, he's go whoa. He is, man. Um, and I think he's quick to make the roster with what he's doing. I have him keeping Cameron Thomas, 2 sacks. Really seems re-energized. Again, he's the second year in a system. He said it was like being a rookie all over again last year. I comprehend that. I don't think that's a lame excuse. I think it's a legit one. And but it's great to see him get the 2 sacks and earn his way back on. And then Jesse Luketa, who the coaches love. And, amazingly, he's got the number 1 PFF grade on the team defense of anyone. And he hasn't really popped out to me, but he hasn't popped out for the wrong reasons either. But I mean, when they're evaluating his play, he's played the run pretty well. He's closed down and turned plays inside pretty well. So in essence, I think he's a good guy to have behind Zaven at the strong outside linebacker position. Same with Cameron Thomas, who you can kick down inside and rush from the inside on passing plays, on surefire passing plays. So, yeah, those are the 5. And I know they're discussing free agents and stuff. I think it's too late. I don't know what kind of shape these are. I wouldn't give up roster spots of any of these 5 guys for a flyer on some of the guys who are still free agents. The only guy I would make a change for is Hassan Reddick. We can get that guy back in the building because of his ties, because of how well he played when he played for JG. And Nick Rallis was his position coach. If we can get Reddick, I'd jump on that. We got the money to do it. I'd be really fired up. If that were the case, I don't know. You have to make a decision there. I mean,
Well, I would imagine they
Maybe part
also
of the Reddick trade.
I was gonna say they probably trade a player to the Jets in exchange
Right,
for Reddick.
right. So, and they're not trading Xavier Thomas, obviously, but maybe a player at a position of need that they have, um, and then that opens up that one spot. So, how are you on edge there? Were you in accordance?
I was not. I only went with 4, although
Yep.
I also believe that the answer might be someone who gets waived by another team
Correct.
because there's usually
Correct.
those surprise waves that maybe
Yep.
you aren't anticipating. So maybe the answer is
Correct.
they do pick up someone from another team. But the 3
Yep.
I felt great about, Zaven Gardeck and Xavier Thomas.
Right.
The last one, obviously there's 3 choices to pick from. I think Lucetta has probably earned it, but the one that hurt the most to pass to the practice squad was Victor Dimakije. Just because
Right.
of the 3, Lucetta, Thomas,
Right.
and Dimakije, he's been the most productive in the past
Correct.
in game
Correct.
action. So I think Lucetta's probably earned it based on play, but it really hurt to pass Victor Dimakije to the practice squad.
You know, I'm not sure where Victor Dimukeje's head was last week. The good news was he was getting to the quarterback. The bad news was he was looking like, you know, training camp practice where you got to avoid the quarterback. I mean, by like jumping aside, you know, jumping wildly over him, or it was bizarre. I mean, he had the quarterback right in his crosshairs twice, and just went way too high to try to tackle and got deked and whiffed. Um, yeah, it looked almost staged, to tell you the truth. It was weird. I don't know what happened with that. So, but with Cameron Thomas, here's where decisions come in, Kyle. I'm sure you consider as well. With Thomas, you got him for 2 more years. With Dimakije, he's on the 4th year of his contract. So, you know, that's and I think inevitably the guy who's going to be better is Thomas, is Cameron. Um, so
I think you might be right. It just hurts because Dimakije has had 4 sacks in
yeah,
the
he
past and
did,
been a productive backup.
he did, and maybe we're sleeping on him, and the coaches are much higher. It's very possible, but I don't think it's interesting. They've been starting Lucetta in the games. So,
Yeah. I like
you
I
know,
said, I think
why
Lucetta
aren't
has
they
earned it.
starting Victor instead? That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
But
And if we go back
oh,
to the offseason plans that we did, I was kind of thinking they should probably just flip Cameron Thomas for a pick swap at the draft. And I like Cameron Thomas. He's a
yeah,
San Diego State guy. It's just now they, even before BJ Ojulari got hurt, they had a log jam of guys at the outside linebacker position. And,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think they should have came to camp with all of those guys, but now they just have to pick between guys who they've been investing in for the bulk of this
right,
rebuild.
right. Yep. All right. Inside linebacker had 4: Kaiser White, Mac Wilson Sr., Owen Popo, and Chris Barnes. Concur?
Yes,
We good?
I've got the exact same 4 for probably the same reasons as you. Although you talked about Mac Wilson can play some edge in a pinch if they need to in strategic moments, but
And
yes, I'm with you.
I also wonder if Barnes could play some edge too. That kid's a aggressive athlete. So yeah, they
At-
could mix around with those guys. I like Barnes. I like all 4 of these guys. Hoping that Kaiser White can hold up physically at the mic. Still worried about that,
this
but
this this will be a big year for Owen Popo. This will decide kind of the
and
trajectory of his NFL career.
right, and he's not a Mike, so nor should he be. He's a weak inside linebacker. Barnes is a Mike. Zaven Collins is a Mike. prototypically. Mac Wilson, I don't think so. Kaiser, let's give him this shot. I sort of thought last year it might be tough to keep him upright at Mike at his size, and he was so good at weak in Philadelphia. So we'll see. But he's got the want to, Kaiser White. He's he's bullish and he wants to win and he wants to play hard. So all right. Now we have the cornerback room, and I'm going with 6 because I cannot bring myself to cut any one of these guys. Um, and they are Sean Murphy-Bunting, Garrett Williams, Katro Clark, Max Melton, Starling Thomas the fifth, and Elijah Jones. Who do you have?
I have got our exact same 6. But even though I don't,
you kept 6?
I've got 6.
Wow.
I've got the same 6. I don't know exactly how they'll piece together, but I got 6, and it's the same 6 as you.
Right. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yep. Murphy,
Oh my
Bunting,
goodness.
Melton, Williams is who I hope will be the starting 3 for the season, but I don't know exactly how they'll piece it together. But yeah, not getting rid of Keitrell Clark, not getting rid of Starling Thomas, and definitely not getting rid of Elijah Jones, because those are pieces that you've been investing in. And like I've been saying with the cornerback room, when you have the worst unit, it's sometimes better to just change the names and try again. And now you have 5 first and second year or 4 first and second year players. Murphy Bunting kind of
Right.
being that boundary corner. Keep all 6. Definitely in the camp of keep all 6.
Right. Okay. We are of like minds. Too much invested there, too much draft capital to make one of these guys vulnerable off waivers. I could just imagine, them getting taken. So I don't want even want to risk it. So in safeties, I've got 5. Buda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Dadrion Taylor, Rabbit, Demerson, who, by the way, PFF just put out a stat. He's the highest graded day 3 pick so far in the preseason. And people are absolutely raving about him. So is Brian Baldinger. And with great reason. This kid plays with feel. He's quick, super quick to diagnose plays, and then super quick to spring into action. And he's a physical player. He's a ball hawk. We're going to play a lot of 3, safety sets, and it's pretty exciting to see what he can do with Buda and Jalen. Joey Blunt, who is arguably our best special teams player, and a San Diego State marvel, Darren Hall, who's a combo cornerback safety, who, talking about earning it the old-fashioned way, this kid has come in and balled his way onto this football field. There is no way, given what he's put into this, that you cut him. It would set a bad tone for the entire team if that were the case. He's just, sometimes you've got to load up on a position when guys earn it, and this is where you can. I know it would be hard for JG to say goodbye to Andre Chachere, but Chachere is not the baller that Hall is. He's not the special teamer that Blunt is. And there are few people on the planet who can play the position like Dadrion Taylor Demerson. So, and Chachere, I think, will pass through waivers, and they'll have him right there anyway. And I'm not sure how, with these guys on board, he would be active on game days anyway. So, best of all worlds, if he could clear waivers and stick with us. What do you got? You had 4, right?
I have 4, and I
Yeah.
left Hall open to waivers, which sucks because I'm getting rid of both San Diego State guys. Me from Slam Diego is getting rid of both San Diego State guys.
Oh
But
no! Oh no!
But this is the thing. Hall has earned it, but so has Joey Blunt. And that's the thing that's tough is if we're going to
Right,
keep six core essentially for me it's just a question of do you keep Christian Jones or do you keep Darren Hall open and available, which because I chose to keep the 10 offensive linemen, you chose to keep 9 and add
right.
the fifth person on defense. And again, it's a compelling case in both directions. And maybe Hall clears waivers, maybe he doesn't. You know, this is his 4th year in the league, so maybe some people look at it like it's only a rental stop on the way. But even if he
Right.
doesn't make it right away, they would have to activate him pretty quickly because someone will eventually pick him up off of waivers, even if it's not, or pick him up off the practice squad. So
Yeah.
I I'm just going with 4 safeties, especially because the hope is that Buda, Thompson, and Taylor Demerson can play 90% of the snaps in the secondary this year. And so I think because the safety room is the strongest, they might be better off prioritizing another position. But I'm not like
Yeah.
dead set on this is what they have to do. So I kept 4, and Buda, Thompson, Rabbit, and Joey Blunt would be the picks.
Yeah. I think that's wise. Yep. So, all right. Now, I think it's wise, but I also think, you know, if you can do it, you keep a guy. I mean, I think Hall, you'd want to bring with you week 1 into that game. You know, I mean, he's played so well. I would give him a key role in week 1 against the Bills until some of those rookies are better assimilated. I mean, Hall's a veteran. You know, but boy, oh boy, does he come after people. And I love his instinct. So here's what, Kyle. I went back and watched his San Diego State tapes. Oh my God. I mean, what an instinctive player. I mean, he just jumps off the tape. Um and you know, and he had 2 pretty dang good years. I mean, he got drafted in the 4th round by Atlanta. I mean, he's a 4th round pick. Um, you know, I mean, whoa. Um, so
It's just playing the game, right? It's will he make it through waivers? Because I don't think Christian Jones or Elijah Jones are going to get activated week 1 of the season. Even if they're on the original roster, I think they're going to be inactive. So you know, you got to
yeah,
fill those roster spots somewhere. And if Hall gets claimed, that stinks, but then that opens the door for Victor Dimakije, or that opens the door for someone else to potentially fill that spot. It's I think you make a great point about Hall and Sashery too. I mean, he's not going to make the team just as a numbers crunch because Hall's been so good, but Sashery's been a player who's been on the team before. So it's it's good that they have these options on the table. And you're right, Hall has been really good, and I do like San Diego State, but I you got to just risk it. You got to risk the possibility that he'll get claimed, and as opposed to you keep him, he fills a role in the short term, but you compromise the long term development of someone that you've invested draft capital in.
right. You know, yeah. Well, I want your San Diego State kids. You know,
I want
so
him too. I guess in fairness, I wanted Cameron Thomas to be traded to the Colts a few months ago, but I do want the San Diego State players to succeed because there's not a lot of them
yes,
in the NFL.
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Okay, so special teams. You know, I have to. I was watching this kid Joe Shimko, the long snapper. Man, he is so good. But then, so I was tempted to take him over Aaron Brewer, even though Matt Prater, Blake Gilligan, and Aaron Brewer are like the 3 amigos. I mean, they work very well in sync and they're very comfortable with one another. Would have been hard for anyone to break into those 3. and Aaron Brewer deserves. I mean, he's been a real stalwart. So, but I was tempted to take that kid because boy, oh boy, does he! I mean, his snaps are like, you know, Nolan Ryan fastballs. I mean, he just gets it back there, and every snap I saw him take was right on the money, and so I can see why the Cardinals liked him coming out. So, yeah, I mean, there's the 3 special teamers. Did you concur?
Yes, I concur. I have the uh well, I went Gillikin, Brewer, Prater.
Oh, okay. Yep. There it is.
Mhm.
Same thing.
Yes,
So
Gillikin,
good.
Brewer, and Prater.
Yeah.
And that,
So, I just sent you a graphic of the preferences, my choices. If you could, put that up there for us, I could send it to your email. Um, if something you can do in the next 5 minutes as we wrap this up, it'd be fun to put that on there. Because I had it ready to go up there, and I had to adjust a couple things while we were in progress, but there it is. There it is. So of the players that we, you know, the good thing about waiving players now, it's not like goodbye, it's often farewell. And like I said at the beginning of the program, um, the best cuts are the ones that where you don't have your players get claimed, and that you can keep as many players as you like on the practice squad, which now gets better and better. Um, because of um, having 17 now. It's awesome. I mean, I could see with 17, bring that long snapper back and have him in the bullpen, Joe Shimko. I mean, man, if he passes through waivers, we'll know that sooner than rather than later because he was waived yesterday. So if he's still around, why not have someone that valuable? Of course, you know me, I love Matt McCrane. I would put McCrane in there too, just in case, we've seen it before where when Matt Prater had to go out for a couple of games, it was awful. Um, Man, what a fateful time it was in that Eagles game 2 years ago when, we had the chance to beat the Eagles at home. And that's when Kyler came up 1 yard short or 1 inch short. Um, so, you know, uh, I wouldn't mind keeping a kicker on there as well. And I love Matt McCrane. Um, I think if right place, right time for him next time in the NFL, he's going to be um, make his case for sticking a long time. All right, so there it is. The there it is on paper. The hardest cuts for me, um, quite honestly, were on the offensive line because I like a lot of those guys, and I want to put Christian Jones in there with these guys, but I just have a feeling, in a way, I'm sort of glad he had a bad game at left tackle because I don't see him playing left tackle in the NFL. I see him as a potential starter at right tackle because he's got right tackle down. So, but at being him, given that he was a rather later on day 3 pick and struggled so far this preseason, I don't see him getting claimed to a roster, and you're going to be able to get him through. If I worried about him getting claimed, his name would be on that list. He was my toughest one in a way. I didn't have as tough a time with DJ Dallas just because I didn't really understand the signing in the first place. I mean, don't get me wrong, kid's a baller, but I think you know, he's a running back 4 or 5 for wherever he is, and as a returner, and he's aggressive and good. But looking at a speedy guy like Xavier Weaver, and to know you could have him for 4 years in this receiver group is too enticing to me. And people would say, "Well, you need two." True, and maybe I put Michael Carter back there. I mean, you know, Carter and Weaver, that would get me fired up. And then you activating him on game day. And Mari DiMercato, I'd have back there. Um, that's made to order for him too. He's a tough kid and he'll get as much as he can get. Of course, the real dog, wild card, if we really need it, is to put the torch and torture chamber kickoff teams. Put him in the torture chamber and have him back there. And he wants to do it. He wants to be the number one punt returner still. So that too said to me, maybe it's better for DJ Dallas to start the year on a practice squad. Because, like, again, I don't think he's going to get claimed with that contract. It would be surprising to me. Now, he could elect, as all guys do, once they get waived, they can go to any practice squad. They don't have to stay with the one who, the team they've been with, as we've seen from other guys occasionally. So, but I think a lot of the guys that they let go here, Monty will sell them on, and properly so. I don't think he's right. We're going to use you when we need you, and at some point this year, you'll probably be on the roster. So don't worry. Just keep doing your thing. We're going to tap into you. We believe in you, and we want you to stick with us on the practice squad for now, and we'll make our moves. Kyle, some final thoughts?
Well, looking at your list versus mine, I think the only differences are me taking uh, Desmond Ritter over Chisena,
Yeah,
keeping Christian Jones to pass through over um, Darren Hall in the safety team, and then
yep,
the only other difference would be not keeping Cameron Thomas, I think. So
right,
I think we're in pretty lockstep for most of the roster. And the thing that I think is interesting is that guys who last year were locks to make the team and were contributors last year are now on the chopping block. And I think that's a sign that you're one adding younger, more talented players. I mean, you talked about the video of a rookie Christian Jones, a rookie Isaiah Adams, and Tip Ryman blocking for a rookie Trey Benson, and how that's exciting because you have all these new people coming in who are going to be contributors, but not just adding younger players, but also just adding players like a Darren Hall who was on another team, comes in, competes for a roster spot, and now he's taking the spot of an incumbent potentially. And I think you've got a whole lot of new faces, and that's exciting for the Cardinals, given how the last 2 years they've had a combined 9 wins. So I think it's exciting that you're seeing the fruits of that rebuild kind of bear out a little bit by having to make some of these decisions. And I
right.
enjoy playing the game of will they, won't they pass through waivers.
Yeah, it's fascinating to do. There's so much thought that has to go into it, and so much figuring out which guys you can slide by and which guys you can't afford to risk. So yeah, I'll never forget. A few years ago, the fifth-round draft pick, we tried to sneak through waivers. Marquis, what was his name? The safety, who was Adrian Wilson's pet pick of that whole draft. Marcus Christian, was it? And the Rams claimed him, and he was a special teams guy for a couple of years for the Rams, 2 or 3. Stuck with them, and that was so agonizing. Not only to lose him, but to lose him in our own division. Um, that happened actually because Steve Keim wanted to keep 2 punters on the roster. I believe that was that case where, oh my God, um, we lost a fifth round draft pick because of it. Hopefully, we won't lose anyone this year. And like I said, it's an artful way to go about the draft and play the odds of who do you have who could sneak through. And some of our guys might have trade value. Um, Desmond Ritter may still have some trade value, particularly plays well Sunday against the Broncos. And then you also got Michael Carter could have some trade value. Um, I think Chris Moore could be of interest to some teams. That guy, had almost 500 yards receiving last year at 21.1 yards per catch. Just haven't seen a lot of them. And then they like Zay Jones. I just don't, with a young guy like Weaver and a special teams baller, plus really good from the slot, Dan Chisena, that was a hard decision to make. And I'd be so thrilled if he got through later waivers. Eventually, these guys will wind up on the roster when attrition hits, and as it inevitably will for all teams. So that's something you got to sell them on and convince them it's worthwhile sticking around. You'll be on the roster sooner than later. But yeah, we've fun to watch this third preseason game, and we'll learn a lot more. And maybe we'll be scrambling back to this for some adjustments. But and if you've got a case for a player you think we're overlooking, please say so in the comments below on YouTube or at Revenge of the Birds where I post this, or at Twitter at WBJ Mitch. We'll take your questions and answer them, because this is an art. It's not a science, and it's difficult. It's challenging. Well, that's why you love it. Try it yourself. Trust me. There are a lot of factors to consider as you go through it. I hope a lot of mine made sense to you, and that Kyle's made sense to you, because we're just trying to piece this together. So we wanted to do this ourselves today because we wanted to, put this out there timely wise, because we're coming back to you next week. By the time we get back to you next week, the decisions will be made and we can talk about them. And we may be talking about them with Dan Bickley, who has kindly agreed to come on the show sometime sooner rather than later. He thought before the season started. So we might have Dan with us next week or the week after that. And I'm just so fired up to talk to him. And if you heard his Bickley blast this week, he pulled no punches. It was really, I thought it was a great pep talk, as Dan does so uniquely. So anyway, cheers to all of us, and enjoy this third preseason game, and may the red rain shower down on you into the Red Sea. Red rain.